Hi, I'm Lisa from Elman B, Scottish artist and fairy maker, and I am back today with another left-handed tutorial. This is my non-dominant hand, and I am using it today because I still have a broken wrist. Before we get started today, please stay tuned to the end of this video, and I'm going to tell you all about my new exciting project, something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time, but due to my broken wrist, I've had to adjust slightly how I'm going to do it. Because I'm still working with my left hand, I am going to continue to work on small 20 by 20 canvases, just a bit easier than trying to cover a large canvas. We're going to use a very limited color palette today. We're going to start with some Prussian blue, which is a really dark, rich blue color, and we're going to use mainly this and titanium white. I did think about doing the whole painting with just those two colors, but then as the kind of idea for the painting developed in my head, I've decided I might add a tiny bit of Hooker's green. I will definitely be adding a tiny bit of fluorescent yellow, and probably going to be adding a little bit of the deep violet. But I might see how it goes, and in future videos I might do one where we just use a colour and white, or maybe a colour, white and black, just to show you how you can still get a fantastic painting on an extremely limited colour palette. So I'm just starting with a 1-inch flat brush, and the first thing I'm going to do is just add the tiniest bit of water to my canvas. I'm not going crazy. For this background, I want to get a little bit of blending in place. I do apologise for the messy desk. Obviously, with the broken wrist, I'm still just finding it difficult to do certain things. So we're going in with our titanium white and the tiniest corner on my brush of the fluorescent yellow. And I'm going to go in with a bit of a diagonal to start. So you could just use pure white for this, and still get a very similar effect on this painting. Then we're going to go in with a tiny bit more of that yellow. Want to make sure we're getting that really bright central spot to this painting. Now I tend to work intuitively when I'm painting. Sometimes have a vague plan, like today I kind of know what I'm trying to achieve, but I just let the paint go on the paper and see what happens. So I've picked up some of that Prussian blue, and again a little bit more white. I just don't want it to be really strong and dark yet. And I'm going to go in to the edges here with a bit of that. So trying to use my broken arm to hold my canvas still, always tricky. So I'm just going to work back and forth. I want these darker edges anyway, so I'm just wiping off some of my blue on there so that I can blend this blue into that white and yellow there. So that's kind of my base. And I'm going to bring in a bit more white, and I'm just picking up some of that blue that was still on the palette. And I'm kind of going to go in side to side here, and a bit more blue. Because I'm thinking maybe I'm going to have some kind of water in this section of the painting. Okay, then I'm going to just take some of the blue on its own, and I'm going to build up a bit of darkness around the edges of this painting. Okay, super tricky to work with this flat brush with my left hand, so I'm going to rinse that out, And I'm going to go in with one of my favorites, a beautiful big fluffy mop brush. And yes, that is a makeup brush. That's another great top tip. And I'm going to get some more of that blue on here. Just a dry, fluffy mop brush I always find the best way. And I'm going to build up my dark colour using my little tap and dab technique, because that is going to be much easier with my broken wrist. So there we go. We're just building up some colour. And I just want to keep that area of brightness in the middle, and an area down here, because like I say, I'm kind of imagining that we're going to end up with a bit of a pool of water in there. Okay, I'm going to come back and add darker areas to this in a minute, but I'm just going to show you some of the other bits that I'm going to add, and then we'll speed up some of this video so that it goes by a little faster for you guys. Right, so this is going to be a kind of forest clearing with a pool of water in the middle of it. So I'm going to mix up a really, really pale blue colour just on the edge of my smudge of blue paint here with a really, really fine brush. And I'm going to start detailing in a few little branches and things that are in the background. So I'm going to build up a few of these on both sides. And I'm also going to take a smaller mop brush. Where's my nice little guy? Give him a little clean off on this rag that I've got at the side here. I'm going to take my smaller mop brush, make sure he's all nice and fluffy. I can use my right hand a little bit more these days. I've just got to be super careful with it. And I'm going to take some of that same blue colour, tapping in on my palette to get a nice loaded up brush, and I'm going to add in some bushes and things on that furthest away section. So I'm going to work on some of that for now, and then I'll come back to you when we are ready to add the next layer. So I've just been building up using my little tiny mop brush, which again is a little makeup brush. And I've just been dabbing and pressing and dotting in. When you use a mop brush and you keep all the ends of it nice and fluffy, when you print it onto the page, you get little marks and dots that look like they could be leaves or plants or foliage. So I've just been doing that over the whole canvas. In this area, I used some of the fluorescent yellow and white, and then lots of white and the blue, just to give me a sort of glowing edge of foliage far away in the distance and round the edge of that clearing. I also painted in a few branches using again lots of white and a little bit of the blue, and some branches round there. And then I've just kind of vignetted the whole piece with some pale blue, and it's just been the same blue that we've been using, the Prussian blue and the titanium white, mixed together so that we've got some really light blue bits and some really dark blue bits. I'm going to work on the water a little bit now, and I'm just hunting about for one of my fan brushes. So fan brush is exactly what you expect. It's in the shape of a fan, and it's great. This is an old one, and I'm purposely picking up and using my old one, because the bristles are getting very separated, which gives you nice kind of lines when you work with it, so that you can get some nice streaks. So I'm going to work a little bit on this kind of pond water area just now, and then I'm thinking maybe I'll add in a little waterfall coming from here. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen in there, but I'm going to do a little bit of work on that and see how it goes. I've left this area down here just now because obviously the water is going to spill over onto some of these details. So then we're going to have to add some extra foliage and stuff back in there. Now, with water, a good little tip is to keep the edges of the water slightly darker. So again, I've not even used the green and I've not used the purple yet. We're literally using the Prussian blue, the white, and a little bit of the neon and the fluorescent yellow so far. I'm thinking the green and the purple are going to come in when we do this kind of foreground area here. So picking up some white and some blue mixed together on the palette here. Doesn't need to be perfect. I quite like the fact that I'm going to have bits of this that are whiter and bits of this that are bluer. And I'm just going to go back and forth just to get a little bit of a watery effect on here. There we go. We're kind of getting it lighter in the middle. Going to go in with almost straight white now. Just get it on the very edge of the brush. All of these things I am finding trickier than normal because I'm using my left hand. I'm using my non-dominant hand here. Going in with some straight blue and then just tapping it into that white. And we're going to bring in a few little darker areas at the side here. I'm just going to build that up with lots of layers. Again, I'll show you another couple of stages that I'm going to work on, and then I'll go back to time lapse, just because things do take me so much longer than they have been because I'm working with the wrong hand. So there we go. We've got a little bit of that dark coming in there. I want to bring some of the dark into that middle bit. It doesn't need to be all perfectly white. There we go. That's starting to get a bit more of a watery effect. Now, as I go, as I add more foliage around the edge of this pond or puddle, we're not sure what it is, little clearing in the forest that's flooded, I will add darker areas of the water to be shadows. We've also got this tree which might be causing a little bit of a shadow, so I'm going to put some down the way little vertical brushes in there just to hint that maybe there's a shadow. Again, we've not really got a tree over the other side, but maybe there's a few shadows and things that we can't see. And then again, just working super lightly. I'm like hardly touching the canvas at all. So I'm going to keep working on that using lots of bits of white and lots of different shades of blue. I might go in with my small detail brush and purposely add in some little areas since I'm working on a small canvas, but I'll do a little bit more work on this till I'm happy that it's looking like some water. And I've got a favorite spot that floods, and it's not even a pond, but it just floods so often. It just creates this magical special little spot near my house. that looks like somewhere that fairies might hide and play. And I absolutely love it, and it's why all these little forest clearings with a little bit of water in them come to mind. There is not a waterfall at that spot, but I'm gonna add something in. So I'm gonna go in with straight white on my fan brush, and I'm gonna wiggle my fan brush on my palette there, and then just pick up a little bit more white because I want to try and get some separation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go horizontally and then sweep it down. I have no clue if I've actually got the control to do this. If I was using this hand, we'd be fine, but we don't know. So we're just going to give it a go. And you know what? If we don't like it, we can paint over it and change it. But what I'm imagining is a little bit of a waterfall right there. So along and down with a little bit of a curve. I'm going to pick up a tiniest bit of the dark blue on its own, and we're going to go along and down, along and down. Going to clean that off and go back into my straight white. Get that along the edge of my brush and go back over with a long and down. There we go. Perfect. I'm going to leave that just now. I'm going to tap in with my white and my blue. I'm just going to tap along the base here with lots of little dots. I'm just rotating the brush so that it makes different shapes. And that's just the straight white and any blue that was left on my brush. And that's kind of giving me that splashes of water at the bottom of the waterfall. So we'll tap in. And I think we'll have to come in with some straight white with no blue on the brush just to lighten that in a couple of places. Lovely. Right, so I'm going to keep working on this water for a little bit. And then I am going to work a little bit around the edge of this pond, just so that the foliage comes back over the top of the water where I've worked. And then I'll come back to you guys when I am going to work on this foreground here. I'm going to keep this piece really, really simple because obviously do have a broken right hand and I am trying to do everything with my left. So I'm just going to see what I manage today and keep it fairly simple for now. So I worked on the pond area a little bit more. I added in some of the fluorescent yellow and white, and I just tapped in a few more bushes and foliage on this tree over here. And then I just brought in various shades of the blue and the white to kind of edge the pond. I decided to go in with the palest little wash back and forward with some of the yellow and white on the actual pond itself, as if this light's reflecting on the water, and a little bit on the waterfall. I'm kind of thinking about whether maybe I add a little sun or moon or something on there and then do a reflection on here. But we're going to work on this bottom section first, see how that looks, and then make a decision. Super tempting at this point just to keep the dark blue as the foreground color, but I think because the fluorescent yellow makes a beautiful shade of green, that if we do bring in some of that deep permanent green into this bottom area with some of the blue, which is going to give me a really dark rich color, that's going to work. And then might tap in a little bit of the deep violet. So going back in with my big mop brush here, it is still dry, it is still nice and fluffy, and I'm just going to pick up some of the blue and I just tap it in all over the brush because I don't want a lot of paint on here. And then we're going to tap into the edge of this green as well, and you're just kind of mixing it together on the actual palette, and you're getting bits of your brush is going to have blue on it and bits of your brush is going to have green on it, and some will have a mix of both. So I'm just rotating the brush and then I can get it really nicely coated. I prefer to build up lots of layers and not go too heavy too quickly. So let's see how this is going to look. And we're just going to bring in some larger, so that's why I've gone to the larger mop brush, larger area of foliage here. And I think I kind of want it to dip down on both sides. So I'm just going to start tapping that in. We need a bit more of the blue actually, and just a little bit of the green. And that's just going to give me some of these bigger shaped branches using the edge of the mop brush. It's going to give me those little curves. I'll come over this side and work a little bit into that corner and then a little bit along the bottom. Get some of that back in there. So I'm using Liquitex Basics again. I use a mix of the Basics and the Pro, just depending on what I'm working on. But Liquitex is my go-to brand of acrylics. Definitely love the way the paint works and handles. So I think we've got a nice dark area there. I don't want to overwork this, and again, because I'm working with my left hand, I don't have the same control that I've normally got. So I'm going to go in with some straight green and just tap in the odd little bit of green. Not sure how much that'll show up on the video. But even though this is a really dark area at the front, I'm going to risk a tiny bit of that neon yellow in with that green. And it's just on like a small section of the brush. It's not on the whole thing. And I'm just going to, oh, that wasn't enough. Let's try a bit more. And I'm just going to try and create, yeah, a little flash of the odd highlight of green in there. So I'm just working super lightly and just tapping in, twisting my mop brush as I go so that I'm getting different shapes and different angles. There we go. I think that's great. And I think that just balances the fact that we've got this kind of greeny color from the fluorescent yellow in the back with the white. So that's fluorescent yellow and white, and it's next to that pale blue. So we get a little hint of that green. And this is the fluorescent yellow in with a very small amount of the deep permanent green. And again, I'm just picking a few spots near the top of this foreground foliage that might have some light catching it. Tempting to do a bit up here, but I think I'll keep it just to the front here. Cool. Comes a point when you need to know when to stop as well. Less is more sometimes. So a little bit brighter over this side because I feel like that's the way that the light's coming in. So maybe there's more light catching on that greenery. And now I need to decide, am I going in with some purple? The only thing I would do is maybe bring in a little bit of the purple and maybe a little bit of the blue together. So let me give that a little bit of a brush off. I don't mind a little bit of the green coming in. And I'm just going to get the tiniest bit of blue. May as well pop it down here next to this purple because that's where I'm going to use it. So that's the Liquitex Basics again that we're using in Prussian Blue and the Deep Violet. So yeah, this feels a little bit like, is this going to be too much? Should I stop now? So I'm just mixing in lots of the blue and a tiny bit of that deep violet just to give the blue a little bit of a warmer purpley color, but let's see. Okay, and we're just going to tap a tiny bit of that in there. You know, I'm not going to go nuts, and I'm just going to put a tiny bit of it in up here and up here, just along the very edge. I'm going to make sure that the edge of my canvas is covered as well. I love the way that green is down here, so I don't want to overdo that. Worried I'm going too dark up here, so I think it's time to step away from the purple. Oh, take your own advice. Okay, look, I've put my brush in the water, which means I can't really do anything else with it now. I'm just going to make sure the edge of my canvas has got a little bit of colour on it, even though it's just canvas board. There is nothing worse than finishing a painting, clearing everything up, and then realising that the edge of your canvas has got me quite marks on it. So we're gonna just, okay, so calling that done with my foreground. I'm keeping it simple. If I had my good hand working, I'd be adding in a ton of extra stuff here. The decision is now whether I'm adding something else into the light bit here, like I talked about doing a moon or something. And I think what I'm gonna do, if I can find another little tiny mini mop brush, so that one would work. Again, another little makeup brush, or I've got this guy, which is a really, really old, I don't know how well you can see that. It's a really, really old filbert brush, which is totally trashed, but I love that sometimes, having old trashed brushes, because this is going to give me a really good ability to dry brush on and kind of scumble a shape. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to risk 3 tiny little fairy orbs up in this corner and see how those look. So cleaning off that little detailed brush that I had. Not clean enough. Bear with me as I work one-handed. Right, there we go. That's better. And I'm going in straight white, okay? Straight white. And the first thing I'm going to do is just go 1, 2, 3. I've just got to pick random spots. I think if you overthink this type of thing, you end up with things that look really random. And then we're going to attempt to brush those into a little glowy circle. So this is not my normal technique for doing this type of thing, but again, I'm having to work out new ways to do things as I'm using my wrong hand, my non-dominant hand. And the way I would normally do this takes a bit more control. So we are going back in with another daub of bright white. And then we're gonna again work in little small circles with a really old scrappy dry brush, just to brush it out into a little glowy orb. Perfect. Problem with using an old brush, getting bits of the bristles on the canvas there. Okay, so I think I've got, I'm risking going in straight with the brush. I'll do a little tap. There we go. Right in the middle. So just picking up the tiniest bit of white and tapping right in the center, and then just tapping round in circles. And then when that's dried off, I will come back and put, that's too much, and we'll come back and put the tiniest little white dot, and hopefully a little tail or something, a little hint that maybe it's more than just an orb, that maybe there's a little fairy or something dancing there. Now, because I'm going to have these 3 glowing orbs, just going in with the tiniest touch of that fluorescent yellow, because and just round the edges a little bit, because I do love the way that makes everything look like it's glowing. So I'm just tapping in to break up that edge a little bit. Right, because we have that now, I'm taking off nearly all of the paint from this brush. I kind of want to hint at these 3 little orbs on my water. There we go. So that's the most of my painting. I might spend a little bit more time now messing about with a few things, trying to get a couple of extra details in there. Sometimes it's good to step away from it for a bit. I might go and get some lunch and come back and see if there's anything else I want to add. But for now, I think we could be almost done. So another nice, simple fairy forest, this time with a little bit of a waterfall in the middle and some little glowing orbs just in the top there. And yeah, I think for today, I think I'm almost there. Tap those out. Perfect. Okay, thanks guys for joining me for this one. Stay tuned, and I'm going to announce something special that I'm going to work on, hopefully for the next year, so that should be intriguing. I'll get this finished off, I'll get it sealed, and I'll get it up on my website as another piece of my left-handed art. So bye for now. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Another piece of left-handed art from me. And here it is, all finished and ready to go. Really delighted with how this one turned out. This is only my fourth left-handed painting, and I think it's quite a big difference from the first one I did, which was less than a week ago at this point. So yeah, definitely working with my left hand is improved a lot. Super pleased about this one. But now on to what I promised I would speak about, which is my project for the upcoming year. I have been planning for a while to do a massive piece that was going to be split up into tiny little sections, and I was going to paint a tiny little section each and every day. And that's great, but with this, I just can't get the base canvas prepared and the design on it and all the little sections, which means just delaying this idea for at least 3 to 6 months, and then I would have to start then, which seems very frustrating to me. So when I was doing my free art Friday, I was working on these little mini canvases, which I absolutely loved. It means if I start now, I'm going to be doing a lot of this with my left hand, but also as my right hand gets better and I need to start practicing and working with my right hand again, then working on this little tiny size is going to be very therapeutic and beneficial for me to get my strength back into this hand too. So I am going to start painting one of these a day, and I'm going to try keep painting one of these a day for an entire year. So please like, subscribe, and join me on that journey. Bye for now.